Hello everybody. So I've just put together the Tom's Lab Studio Mark II, but today's video is not going to be about that. It's going to be about the PC that is driving the whole studio, I guess you could say. So the remarkable thing about this is that not only did I build it myself, it's a custom built PC, it only cost me $40. I only had to buy one part that cost $40. And everything else I got for free or I already had. But it's not going to be about just me ranting about it. I'm going to go on in the internals, do a full review of it, maybe do a little bit of benchmarks. So let's get on into it. So to start off with, here's the case. This case is actually almost 20 years old, and I even left on the CD key sticker for Windows Millennium Edition. Now this was, the case is from a custom built computer that was built by Coastal Discount Computers in Goldsboro, North Carolina. And that's the little logo down there. I just left it on the case. They're actually still in business today and they still make custom built computers. I actually looked at their website and they got some pretty decent spec ones. But this was one of their custom builds that had a Jetway 830CN Ultra motherboard, 128 megs of RAM, AMD Duron, I think it was 800 or 900 megahertz, and Windows Millennium. But it was a very powerful computer for its time, and like I said, it was a fully custom build, and I got the computer as a whole, and I just used the case from it for this build that I did here. I got this case for free, so that's one of the things. Next, you probably noticed the floppy drive right below the DVD drive, and believe it or not, it's actually working. Now the motherboard that I've got here, the motherboard is from a Dell Inspiron 531S, and it actually has a floppy drive connector on it. And on top of that, the power supply also has a floppy drive power connector on it. So the floppy drive is fully working. I've actually used a few floppy disks with it, and believe it or not, Windows 10, which is what this computer is running, still recognizes floppy drives and floppy disks, which is the crazy thing. So this is the switches and the lights on the bottom here, and the lights actually came out of the same Dell Inspiron 531S that I got the motherboard and the hard drive from, well, and the power supply too. I'm about to go into that. And I just took the lights out of the front casing and hot glued them into the light mounts there, and they work pretty good. The power switch has the original switch behind it for the Inspiron, and the motherboard also has reset pins on it, so I was able to wire this old reset switch here into the pins on the motherboard, so when I press it, it actually resets the computer. Well, not resets, but restarts it, you know what I mean. So the reason for the the power supply, yes, it is very, very small and is definitely not designed to fit in there. But this computer uses SATA hard drives, and everything else in here is SATA because it is a newer motherboard, actually about 2007. And this was the and this is the only working power supply I had that had SATA power ports on it. So that's why I put it in there. It's a mini ITX power supply in a regular ATX case, which is pretty funny. So the reason I don't have an I/O shield on here is because I don't know if you know how the Inspiron 531S is built, but it does not have an I/O shield. It's just holes in the case where the port goes through. So I don't have an I/O shield for it. That's the reason why. Get over it. Now the reason the graphics card down there doesn't have a shield, and yes, it is pretty loose. The reason it doesn't have a shield is because I tried to put it in a mini ITX case one time, and the only way I could do it was to take off the shield. And long story short, I lost the shield and now I can't find it. And it is pretty loose, but it still works, and I'm probably just going to hot glue it right there so it'll stay stable. And down here we have a little dial-up modem. I don't actually use it. We have DSL and this computer is connected over Wi-Fi. But if I ever decide I want to do something with the phone line or just do a funny experiment or something, I might use it. But I figure it was a pretty fun addition. And on top of that, the build that this case used had it in there originally, so I guess just a little bit of nostalgic value, I don't know. Now for the part that you've all been waiting for, the internals. So it's behind this shield right here. That's held on with 2 screws, but that's pretty much because The case is so old. I'm gonna find somewhere to put these screws. I'll just put them in my Crocs for now. Yes, I am a Crocs guy. I love Crocs. But anyways, I'm going off on a tangent here. And here we are. So this is the inside of it, and this is a very roomy case. And right here you see the motherboard in all its glory, and down there's the edge of the graphics card, which is still loose as heck, but I'm gonna find some way to make it stable. Right here you see the two hard drives, CD drive, or it's actually a DVD-RW drive, and that's pretty much it for the internals. And you can see there the floppy drive connector, which is actually connected into the motherboard. Now, mounting the motherboard in here was pretty easy since it's just a standard ATX motherboard. And the funny thing about the Inspiron 531S is that it's a mini ITX case with a mini ITX power supply. That is where the power supply came from. The funny thing is it's got a full-size ATX motherboard in there. And this motherboard for some reason gets very hot when it's running. I guess it's because of the processor, which I'm about to go over. But the Inspiron 531S, I don't even know why it's not on a list of worst home computers or anything like that, because it was very badly built. And I mean, it's pretty fairly powerful, but it's still just very badly built, and it gets way too hot when it runs. And I think this case kind of solved the heat problems. It's just got a standard little factory heatsink and fan on it. And one day when I find one, I am going to put a chassis fan right there on the back. But as for now, the power supply fan does enough cooling as it has to. So you're probably guessing, well, Tom, what part was it that cost $40? Well, that's what I'm holding in my hand. And if you guessed the graphics card, you're correct. So the graphics card here is a EVGA GeForce GT610. And it is a very low-end graphics card, and it only cost me $40 brand new in the box off of Amazon. And while it is low-end, it is a very impressive card. While it is pretty low range, and you're not going to be able to play Crysis or GTA 5, which I have tried, or anything like that on it, it is just for older games or maybe even new games that have low graphics, or you can adjust the graphics settings to low on here or medium. Euro Truck Simulator 2 runs at medium settings on this card just fine. But it is a very impressive card, and one day I do want to upgrade this to a GeForce GT730, but as for now, this card gets the job done, and I really like it a lot, and it keeps itself really cool too. Now, with all the geeky goodness inside of it aside, let's go ahead and fire it up. So I'm starting off in the BIOS here to show you the specs. First of all, we have 4 gigs of RAM installed. As you can see there, it's 800 megahertz RAM, and this was the same RAM that was on the motherboard when I got it. Works pretty fine. As for the CPU, we have an AMD Sempron LE1250. Now, that's the surprising part about this computer. It's a single core processor, 64-bit, but it's still single core. And in the future, I do want to upgrade it to an Athlon X2, as this motherboard supports it. I'll probably get it after Christmas, you know, when I got some money to get it. But anyways, that's pretty much for the internal specs. Along with, I got about 400 gigabytes of storage with my 2 hard drives. One hard drive is 250 gigabytes and the other is 160. So that's upper 300s or something like that. I haven't really added it up. Alright, that gives me 410 gigabytes of storage. I had no idea, but I probably should have found that out before I started going on about it. video. This is really one of my most impressive builds when it comes to gaming performance, and I built a lot of computers before in my time. But anyways, I hope you really enjoyed it, and this is really the first really kind of professionally edited video I've done, and I even edited it myself. But anyways, if you want to check out my channel, I got a lot of stuff on there, so just click the monitor behind me. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys later.